Monson, the interim pastor here at Hamblin. And we're just going to do a quick sound check. Can you hear me in the back? Keno, can you hear me okay? We're good? We're good? Okay, awesome. This was my first vacation Bible school at Hamblin, and it was so impressive. The creativity and the energy and the delight that filled the sanctuary was just palpable. The kids loved it, and I think the adults, for the most part, did as well. There were oohs and ahs over the science experiments. There were the renaming of all manner of things in order to teach scientific principles that we could all take to heart and to understand how God's plan unfolds from creation and spills right on into our lives today. It was incredible. And Friday afternoon, when it was over, it was so quiet in here. It was crazy. It was wild. And we were tired. There was a tiredness in Doc and Joe that I had not seen before. And in talking with him about it, I said, "So Joe, this afternoon, feet up?" He goes, "Yep, in a recliner. I'm done, spent." He was tired. At the end of all the creativity of Bible school, even though it brings delight and we love it, we are tired and weary. And our text today points out something really important about God. That while we are created in God's image, there is a difference between Joe's need for rest and God's rest. Joe needed to rest, as did Colleen and David and Betsy and Bee and Gloria and Lisa and everyone that was involved in Bible school. We needed to rest because we were weary of all that had been created and accomplished. But when God's work was done in creation, God was not weary. The work was simply complete. Full satisfaction. It was lovely. It was a delight. And God's rest and the gift of rest that we are meant to enjoy comes from a similar place. This delight in the completeness. This ability to trust God and God's provision for us. Genesis was probably written in about the 6th century to a people living in exile who needed a word from God to help them orient themselves in the world. The ancient Near East was full of gods from many cultures. And if you take a look at the literature from that time period, you see that these gods were told to have created the world and humanity to work in the world so that the gods could sit back and rest. Humanity were the workers, and the gods were meant to be at rest. Enter the narrative of Genesis, a completely different scenario. Creation is created for humanity to enjoy, to labor in, to have agency with, to be a part of, to have rule and dominion over, as a shepherd would. As a good shepherd would care for, tend, nurture, feed, and find rest for animals. This was a very different, very radical scenario that set up the people of Israel to live in the world differently than anyone else. God spoke blessing over humanity in creation and spoke blessing over the gift of rest and said to humanity, to men and women created in God's image, you are to labor and to care for this creation. And in its full provision, in all that I have provided for you, you are also to find rest. Rest for your soul. You are intended to be a people of rest. This is meant to be a mark that you are mine. I think as Americans, we struggle with this. We struggle with the idea of rest. We want to accomplish things and be people of achievement, people who build grand civilization and care for our neighbors and be in the world in a way that points to what we do. And yet, our scripture passage today invites us, in fact, assigns us to find our place in the world in a different way, to find rest in our labor. And so this summer, we're going to take the entire summer to develop a robust theology of rest because we need it. I need it. I bet you need it. As pastors, as we sat and thought and prayed about this theme, it really seemed right and good to us that this was a word for God's people that was very timely for Hamblin. It can be hard to rest in an interim period, to trust that God is at work in ways that we can see, Vacation Bible School, and in ways that we cannot see. But we are designed to be people who can both labor and rest. So Israel, God set apart then and now to be known as people of rest. And as Christians, we too are set apart. We are to be people who are known to rest in the complete work of Jesus Christ. From the beginning of God's plan, we were given a soul. And coming to understand what this soul is about, what it is, what it needs, how it works, and why it matters, is what we're going to be learning about this summer. Our soul is a combination of things that we are. We have a will, don't we? A will that drives us. We also have a mind that seeks understanding, and we have emotions that draw us into relationships with others. And around this will, mind, emotions, and body is this idea of a soul, this living soul that is an eternal deposit given to us. And what is it that souls need? Souls need to be filled up. Souls need meaningful work, whether it's paid or volunteer, doesn't matter. Meaningful work, ways to contribute. Souls need soul-stirring worship. And souls need satisfying rest. Problem is, in our world, all manner of things work against the ability of our souls to be filled up. There's things that we are anxious about, worried about, concerned about, things we wonder about. And you might think of this as kind of little holes in our soul that kind of drain out the fullness that we are meant to hold. Our souls tend to leak. And so they must constantly be filled up. There are ways that we can do this personally, and we're meant to do that. And there are ways that this happens corporately when we are together. And for this morning, I think the primary principle that's important for us to understand in this theology of rest is that we need some more of it. We need more rest than we probably have right now, than we probably even think that we need. And so this week, I have an assignment for you. I think you will enjoy it. The assignment is this. Figure out, what is it that fills you up? Is it walks in a beautiful park? Is it music that stirs your soul? Is it being with a lot of other people? Or is it being alone? We are wired in our souls, each uniquely. Here's an example that occurred to me. Yesterday, I couldn't resist going to Hoop Fest. If something interesting is going on, I want to be there. My son was working. Craig, my husband, was on an airplane going to Oklahoma. So I went by myself, and I had a blast. I loved it. It was so fun to see Spokane just full of life, people being a little crazy. It was so much fun. By contrast, in telling my mother about what I did, oh my gosh, she is wired so differently. She would be delighted to watch Hoop Fest on television. She is not a person that loves crowds of people. We're wired differently. Some of you biked to church today. You love that physical activity. And even if it's going to be 100 and something today, you don't care. You bike to church. You could bike to church every Sunday, and it would be a delight. For the neighbor next to you down the pew, not such a delight maybe. This is your assignment. Figure out, identify what fills you up, and talk to somebody in your life about it. Compare notes. Find out the ways that you're similar and the ways that you're different. This will help us understand a theology of rest that will bless our souls and bless our church ultimately and our community. As you leave today, you're going to be handed a resource, a tool of sorts, to help you rest some more. All right? In it are some questions that you might, sit around a campfire and talk to someone about. Or, melt the marshmallow in your microwave. Whatever works for you. Take this tool and talk with someone you love about what it is that fills you up. And let's together this summer increase our understanding of what it means to be people of rest. And now we have a video that we're going to watch to highlight some of the beauty of Vacation Bible School and our kids.